this is Gina Ann Costigan. Welcome to my podcast, 50 and Fabulous, What You've Learned Through the Trenches, sponsored by Main Street Mortgage. And I'm so honored and excited today to have my guest, Miss Jenny Calcoen, on today. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course. And I have met Jenny just recently, within the last, I'd say 6 months maybe or less, through our eWomen network, which we have such a great amount of women in that room. Yeah. And I always feel honored to be a part of it and meet so many fun, great individuals. And I think we actually were sitting at a table together. And you have such great experience in your life. I mean, you could actually put this all in a book. I'm thinking I'm going to write your book for you.
Okay.
Well, Jenny, you are married to Jeff for 21 years.
Yep.
And just became an American citizen. So I am just so happy for you, and what an accomplishment.
Yeah. It was actually really moving.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, I've been living here, as a resident of California
right.
for 8.5 years. And so I felt it was time. I enjoy privileges, and I felt it was time to also do my civic duty. So I applied for citizenship, and I was sworn in the summer.
Wow.
And it was very moving and very intentional,
That's wonderful.
So it really feels like I belong here.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you've been here for a long time, and, you really took the step to do that. And I just want to say thank you to become an American. We're glad to have you. Well, let's go back a little bit. You have quite a history. You were born in Belgium, and you lived there till you were 22 years old.
Yep.
And then you had a lot of countries you moved to. Mm-hmm. And your ex-husband, I guess, had a job that took you to many different places. You were in, you were in Paris, you were in Switzerland, Madrid, you were in London. I'm just getting jealous right now. And you moved to California 8.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And now you live in Santa Barbara, which you started your coaching and consulting business.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you live in a great place, and you've lived in great places. And I know that you were formerly in a corporate job. Tell me about in 6 different countries. Let's talk about that a little bit. Tell me about that.
Yes, I was in corporate for 26 years. So as I was moving around, and I was also building my career.
How are you building your career when you are moving so much? I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Well, I somehow managed to, find jobs and actually find better jobs every time I moved. So with the experience that I had, I think what helped me was that I spoke languages, and I, diverse background, a diverse experience. I wasn't tied to one industry. And so, yeah, it kind of felt easy. It didn't feel like it was that it was very difficult, so I just kept moving up, so to speak, up the corporate ladder. And then the longest I lived anywhere was in London for 15 years.
Oh wow, okay.
Where I ended up essentially in the finance industry, working for an asset management firm in the city of London, which is the financial district in London. Working for an asset management firm with, with institutions, with governments.
Wow.
Wealth, sovereign wealth funds. And then my last corporate job was as the head of a family office of ultra high net worth individuals.
Okay. And that was in London?
That was in London.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was, sort of the peak of my career, right? I had arrived. I was doing what I could only dream of as, growing up in Belgium. That wasn't really in the guides.
Yeah, right.
And yet it wasn't fulfilling, it was not nourishing to my soul.
You weren't fulfilled doing that position.
No, and it was pretty much as good as you can get, when you manage essentially a billionaire's family office, they do a lot of good. And so I was part of the structure that helped them do a lot of good in the world. And I wanted to do more. And I wanted to serve people and serve my purpose, I guess, in a different way. And now I chose to, well, in a way I didn't choose, but I really burned myself out. And so the question became,
Corporate burnout.
yeah, corporate burnout. And so what do I do now?
So you left them, the family.
Yeah.
And then after you left the family, is that when you came to California?
Yeah, that's it. We left Europe. We moved to California, and I started my own business, doing what brought me joy and energy, and
Because you had to fulfill yourself.
Yeah.
So once you started fulfilling yourself and knowing what you really wanted to do, you're able to do and consult and coach people and women. We talked about this, just women, and helping them with their inner energy.
Yeah.
And really trying to get their inner self to where they need to be. And that happens so often with, women, we wear so many hats. And I feel the same, we're some parents, we're, employees, we're mothers, we're, we're children. We're just so many things that, we do. We're in charge of so much, from the household to the bills. You name it. Especially, I'm a single parent, so I get it. And that burnout feeling sometimes gets a little overwhelming, but you got to, put your right foot forward and keep going, because no one else is going to do it for you.
Right.
So tell me, when you started, you're the CEO and founder of the Inner Earthquake, a consulting and coaching practice. I just love the name, Inner Earthquake, because I feel like sometimes it's an inner earthquake.
Right. Yes.
I'm feeling that inner earthquake some days. And, explain to me exactly what that means.
Yeah. So when I started working with women, they were telling me different stories. They might be going through a divorce, or they might be going through a job change, intentional or not intentional. And so I was trying to capture, how should I talk to women about what they're going through? Is it like, should I only speak to women who are going through a divorce? And then I realized that actually what was happening was the circumstances on the outside might be different, but what they were experiencing on the inside was the same.
Right.
And so Inner Earthquake seemed to really describe that thing. So I would say 90% of women that I speak to, that I say Inner Earthquake to, they go, yeah, I know exactly what that is. I've gone through it. My friends, my sister is going through something now. So it's that profound sense of the world as you know it has turned upside down.
No.
There is life before the thing and life after the thing that happened. Very often, it's very normal, especially as women, to go through several of these in our lifetime.
No, for sure.
Statistics tell us that by the time we reach midlife, we've gone through, on average, 5 of these major life events.
And I could say that's true. Mm-hmm. From the age of 23, when I got married, to now I'm 53. Oh, wow, 30 years. Not that person. I've gone through many different stages, and it's so true.
And what we learn is to put ourselves to the side and just power through, because like you say, we have so many responsibilities.
Yeah,
we have so many identities. We have so many roles to fill, and we can't just stop.
No,
or take
the
a
roles
holiday,
are
take
important.
a break, or fall apart. We don't have the time to fall apart.
Can't do it.
And what happens is that's not sustainable. So sooner or later, it might not even the biggest thing that you've gone through in your life, but something will just kind of bring you to your knees where you literally can't do that.
You can't breathe. Yeah.
Being in that space. So very often the women that I work with have gone to a therapist or are working with a therapist currently, and they're now in a space where they're coming out on the other end and going, okay, so what is next? Like, I don't really know where to start. I know I can't go back. I don't want to go back. But I don't really know where I'm going,
right?
Who I am, even.
Kind of lost.
Yeah.
You put so much identity, I think, when you are in, working, or if you're a mother. And, I hear that a lot, once the children leave the nest. My daughter just moved out, and she was 20, she'll be 26. And it's a big adjustment. And even though I have a full career and I have a lot of, outside activities and friends and family, it's still an adjustment. And it's kind of like, what do I do? I get home, I'm like, I'm bored.
Yeah.
And I'm not one that can just, sit around. We used to watch movies every night or TV, and it's an adjustment. But luckily, I have a wonderful roommate move in, and that is something you don't like to go home sometimes to an empty house, because that is an adjustment, So,
Well, that loss of identity can be it's so profound.
Yeah,
It's
for
like
sure.
on an existential level, really.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, you find yourself in the space between not yet and, not anymore and not yet.
Right.
So you're sort of hanging almost midair, and kind of like it feels really uncomfortable because,
No, for sure.
right, we don't learn also how to feel all of our feelings. We're busy.
We're too busy. I'm too busy, right? Yep. And we just do that. We push them all aside.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why, there's a day that we get so stressed out, you can't even pull yourself out of bed. And that happens. And those inner earthquakes, you're so right. By the time, 23 to 53, there's a couple along the way. And you have to figure things out. And you go through therapy, or you go through coaching or consulting. And I think it's so important, though, that you do the coaching consulting, because it's a different animal, and it's just a different level of education, too. And I think that's so important.
I think therapy is very necessary.
I do, too.
In looking backward and seeing where are the patterns and how did I get there.
But you're about moving forward.
And coaching is about moving forward.
Yeah.
So even though we do still go deep, it's about moving forward and in a way constructing that new identity,
And then
by choosing.
Yeah, the new path of life.
Right? Yes. And it's about choosing who I want to be, right?
Yeah.
Because that's where everything starts. We live in a society that tells us that our value is based on the things that we have, or the title, or the house that we live in, the car that we drive.
Oh, for sure.
And it's not. It's an inside out job. It's not outside in.
No,
right?
no.
So
Yeah, you can have, you could have all the outside. You can have this big, beautiful home and the cars and the boats and the everything. And then inside, you're just completely empty. And that's a terrible feeling. So I think that, I had that kind of inner earthquake, but you have to figure out your next steps, and you got to keep going. But I think, like I said, coaching, I didn't go through coaching. I went through therapy, which, right, you go through all the back. But I would have loved to have somebody to work with me moving forward.
yeah.
And now all the groups that we have, and the women and people that are doing coaching and consulting, it's so nice. It's just a different, all the women that I meet that are doing this, it's just been fantastic. And there's some men, you can't leave them out, right? Jenny, you also work with individual teams and organizations to promote well-being in a corporate environment.
Yes.
So you're doing that now?
Yes, I do that now.
And tell me more about that.
So in a way, it's the same work because you're still working with individuals.
Right.
And certainly what I noticed in the corporate world is that, it's not necessarily made for individuals, and we don't necessarily look after the individuals in a corporate structure. And so then we get, teams that are out of alignment, or difficult colleagues to work with, and it starts with the individual. So there are things that we can very easily do, and more companies are now becoming aware of, actually, our biggest asset is our people.
Yeah.
And so there's a willingness now to look after, the well-being of the people that we work with. And so, I do mindfulness interventions and speak to teams about communication and how to better work together.
That's great. 'Cause a lot of the corporate America now is really in tune.
Yeah.
And even with mental health and everything. And that's so important, because they don't want to burn their people out and have them leave. If you have the education and the tools, and you're teaching them the tools, that's the important thing. Because, in the corporate life, I left corporate America about 10 years ago. I've been here for 10 years, and it's a smaller company, but, it's still it's not corporate America, but
Yes.
it's still the stressing in the mortgage industry and what we've had the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So you have to have some type of tools to deal with, a day-to-day, and just to deal with the stress. And it's important. So I think that's great you're doing that because, working with people in the corporate life, I'm sure that they really need that and helps their well-being. And then they perform better.
That's right. I mean, it affects your company's
performance.
bottom
Yeah.
line, right? I mean, that's ultimately, if you're looking at sheer, ROI. I mean, so I used to call, we all know ROI is
Right.
return on investment. I now call it ripples of impact. Because the ripples of impact are that it impacts your bottom line.
Totally.
It costs much more to retrain people, rehire, cycle people in and out of teams. That affects so much more than investing in the people that you have.
Yes, it's so important.
Sure that you meet them in a place of, look, I'm providing you with the best environment possible so that you can be the best employee possible.
Right. And that's so important. And even, at Main Street, I feel that's so important. And they can come to me at any time.
Yeah.
Let's talk through this. Because training somebody, like you said, and bringing someone on, it does take process. It takes time. I want my team that is here to always feel they can come to me and talk to me about anything, and we'll work through it.
Yeah.
And that's important to have that open door. And I even put a couch in my office. And now I don't know if I was so smart, but sometimes I'm like, I'm really going to lay on this for 5 minutes. But, that's why it's my open door.
And that's where it starts, right? Like, it's actually really good for people to see that you do take 5 minutes to lay on your couch. If you do it,
sometimes I
dream
just need to sit here for 5 minutes. But that really is for my team members to know that they can come in anytime and feel not only comfortable, but they actually sit down and be comfortable. And I truly believe in that. I managed for many years in my early 20s and up to 30s. Managed big teams, and they went far. But we did a lot of corporate training, and that was through Beneficial Finance, and they did great training on helping us and making us strong managers and helping our team members. And they flew us back east. They flew us all over for different types of corporate training. And I learned a lot. And that training through Beneficials always stayed with me. And
leadership styles have evolved over the years too. So it used to sort of be like lead from the front, and I believe there's a lot of value in having people's back. It's not necessarily being the person out front that is on the stage, and that is maybe part of it, but it's certainly like having people's backs. That's
I always say good leaders always have, they pull up their sleeves and they dig in. And, if you have a good team, you can delegate, but you also help them and pull those sleeves up and you dig right in, because that's what makes a good leader. And I learned that from my father a long time ago. So he had a huge career and had a lot of employees, but he treated them, he'd remember their name. He had 650, so he'd remember their names. He'd learn it right before he'd go into an office. How's your husband? How's your son doing? But that meant so much that he did that. And I learned that from him. So that was installed in me. And I think it's a good trait.
Of course.
Makes people feel like, hey, they kind of take notice of me.
Well, and it starts here, right?
Right.
It always starts with us.
Exactly, most definitely. Let's see what we got here. I think we've covered, a lot of everything that you do, and you have a wealth of information as well, and you have a vibrant personality, and I think that you helping and doing this for the corporations and helping your consulting and coaching with women, and just becoming an American citizen are all such valuable things that you can work on and have been working on. So congratulations again on becoming a citizen, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.